couple more things we want to talk about. So another key benefit from a rotational chair bed perspective. We've talked about people who are struggling to get in and out of bed on their own, and we've had conversations, and we've gone out and done demonstrations and sold products like this to people that are in this sort of position. So Mike, who is now asleep, in an imaginary rise recliner. So as you can see, and hopefully you can see okay, Mike's position now is very uncomfortable. His legs are slightly elevated, of course, but his chest and his arms are restricted and they're held in. And this is the situation that we actually find a lot of people who go for the rotational chair bed are actually in this situation. We did discuss a little bit earlier, actually. And we have the worst case was very lovely lady. I personally went out in that instance, and she'd been to bed. That was, in fact, her life was her rise recliner. And it wasn't the best fitting rise recliner either, I might add. So for 3 years, she sat and slept in that rise recliner. And that actually, when I was there, it sort of blew my mind a little bit, because I wouldn't be able to do that. What it means is when someone's in that, number one, their state of mind, their mental health, their emotional health is affected clearly, because you're in the same environment. And actually with COVID, everyone knows how we've felt, where we're restricted in what we can do and what we can't do, where we can go, and we're within the same four walls, or in the same household, if you like. Imagine someone who's been in that situation for years now, and actually imagine homing in and putting that down to that single bed, or rise recliner I should say, put them into that rise recliner situation, and that's where life is. So that's really under the microscope from a COVID perspective, if you like, to go to that situation. That feels like 100 times worse to me. So in that lady's situation, she was set up as Mike is really, in a rise recliner. Now Mike's going to just hop out really quickly for us.
The one thing I would say, I don't know how clear it is, but what you find in a rise recliner as well is that it curves your shoulders in. And as it curves your shoulders in, it restricts your chest. And as a result, your breathing is not as deep as it should be, because you physically can't get the breath in, because your shoulders are being pushed in, your elbows are being pushed in. It makes it very difficult to breathe, very uncomfortable.
Exactly. And that exactly, Mike, is a really good point, because the lady that in question was in that situation, and in conversation with her when we were setting the rotational chair bed up to demonstrate the bed, just to demonstrate, I might add, she was telling us how she was having bronchial issues, respiratory issues, and it was because what she was doing, instead of having an opened chest, and Mike was going to jump out really quick and get back on the bed,
instead of deep breath as well.
Yeah. Instead of keeping the rib cage expanded and allowing the shoulders to go back, she wasn't. She was in this falsely crunched position. So one of the things that's really nice and really easy to demonstrate this, see where Mike's hands are now. The handrails are set to the edges of the bed. So we're talking 90 centimetres wide. So instead of being in this confined space on the rise recliner, you're now able to expand your chest and let your shoulders roll back and allow more oxygen and deeper, better breathing. And something I found out personally from a cycling accident is where I broke my ribs. If you don't take deep breaths, you don't clear out the bacteria at the bottom of the base of the lung. And of course, in the situation with now with COVID, that's one of the problems COVID patients suffer, where they're trying to get clear air into the lungs. So in a non-COVID environment, obviously we're talking for the rotational chair bed, but now, as we can see, Mike, or the user, if we want to call him the user, he's now got his shoulders back, he can put his hands down, they're not crunched in, he's got room to spread them out, which means he's opening up the chest cavity and the lungs so he can breathe deeper and more comfortably. That essentially means a better night's sleep. A better night's sleep means you're not tired when you get up. When you're not tired when you get up, you feel positive and more energised. And when you feel like that, also the physical transfers and translates into the mental and emotional state as well. So you can see they're all linked very closely in. So the mental health and the mental well-being, the emotional well-being and the physical well-being changes. So these as a product sorry, Mike, I apologise. These as a product can actually have lots of additional benefits moving you up in your health, whilst you might have an underlying condition that you're having to cope with, hence why you've gone for a rotational chair bed. Sorry, Mike.
I was just going to say, I was just going to link it into something when a person bought one of these from us, and I went to see them 6 months later, and they were actually sleeping, whereas before they'd sleep for a couple of hours at the most before they'd wake up and have to move, and they at the end of the night they weren't completely rested. The first night that she had the Rota Pro, slept through for 6 hours, and actually she said the difference that made to her after a week of sleeping for 6-7 hours at a time was revolutionary, because as Greg was saying, it just improves everything. The body needs to rest and recover, which it does while you're asleep, and if you're not getting that rest and recovery, then it's just going to make you cumulatively feel worse.
Yeah. Physically drained, exhausted,
Yeah.
tired, body unrested, and then not able to work on trying to do the repair, like you just said, Mike, to make you feel better and to make you actually physically better in some cases. So you can see, coming out of a rise recliner situation into a bed situation, the lady, just for clarity, after 3 years, we set the bed up as a demonstration model in her front room. She then refused to let us take the demonstration model away and insisted, and I do use the word insisted, that she wanted to buy it because she burst into tears and said, tonight I'm going to bed for the first time in 3 years. Again, like the incontinence conversation we was having, super powerful, and when you witness it personally, you never forget it. You never forget it. Thanks for doing that, Mike.
That's fine.